Welcome back. Today's guest, who was actually my first guest. So, Maria Aleandra, MA for short, welcome back. MA and I have known each other for a year, and I just love being with her so much, whether it's virtual or in person, because she exudes so much joy, so much compassion, so much inspiration, and just power. So, that first piece of this series, Power, boy, does she really, really exude that. And you're such a great example of that. So, MA, welcome back. And let everyone know who's watching who you are and who you be.
Well, thank you, my dear Tiffany. Love, adore you. Also, in your bio, we should add that you're one of the funniest people I know, at least.
You too.
I mean, put it out there.
Yeah,
and
I received that. Thank you.
Yes, you are. You make me laugh like in stitches, like whether it's in person or virtual or on the phone. I typically have a really good belly laugh when I'm interacting with you. Cheers. And cheers to that. I also want to say, fun side story, how intimidating you were on our first phone conversation, and how, it's like, don't judge the book by the first conversation you have with it, because they could end up being one of the most amazing things in your life. And if I had based it on just that first interaction with you, I would have been like, hi.
Yeah. Well, and I'm grateful for that feedback, because you are powerful.
Well, and it's
like, thank you. And I get that feedback a lot, and it's nice to actually hear it and be able to shift and know, how we're being in the moment. So I love that you gave me that feedback.
No, and props to you for being so like powerful and clear. Like, I guess, the intimidation came from just, you're someone who has her SHIT together, or most of it.
I'll receive that.
So I was like, yowza, this woman means business. So yeah. So thank you for having me again. I love the fact that I was your first guest, and now I get to hop in again. And here's to many more, including a secret announcement we have later on.
Thanks for dropping it in. We have
an
announcement we're going to be making later on in the show, and talk about fun and funny. We're super thrilled to share later
on. Stay tuned for that. That's going to be really good. So hello everybody. I am a mindset coach. I'm a business coach. I focus primarily on supporting ambitious, driven, visionary women who are seeking to step into entrepreneurship. These are leaders, these are change makers, just women who have this incredible, voice that's probably been hidden. They face the typical obstacles a lot of us face, of perfectionism, of self-doubt, of sort of like knowing that they have something really powerful to share with the world, and having that desire to transform the world, and understanding that they get to first transform themselves on the path of creating the big, beautiful things that they desire in the realm of their career, their abundance, their freedom, and their impact, really. So, and it really mirrors what my story has been in terms of my own self-development and growth and all of that. So that's what I do. That's who I be. And it's a privilege. It's an absolute privilege. And during this time, it's been so beautiful to tap into even a deeper level of purpose around what that means, and what I've been cultivating in the past couple of years as it pertains to how I show up, and my visibility. Because the gifts that you have are you're born with, and we get to cultivate them. I always say the most important work you'll ever do is the work of becoming more of yourself. And so when we approach that from the perspective of, well, how can I share this, and who gets to hear it? Which again, it speaks to, entrepreneurs and visionaries and change makers and people that are really up to big things, up to big, beautiful things. Then this is a really powerful time to really like double down on what your purpose is and what you get to create from there. And which we talked about in the first part of this, and we'll talk about today, is the flexibility of, as we continue to step into the unknown, we get to be very open It's like not tied to anything, not attached to anything, like Tiff, like you were saying before, but just have that sense of openness. And understand that as things are changing and shifting, then we get to change and shift too. It's just going to happen. So how we get to play when we accept that rather than resist the discomfort that might come from the unknown is so powerful, especially now. So.
Yeah. And that you know, the piece I want to go further with is, how do we get to play in this space right now? You know, you and I had a conversation just earlier today and yesterday. And one of the things that was shared is that, you know, when this all began, this paradigm that we're in right now, that, you know, we came out the gates blazing. Like, yes, there was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of information coming at us. Yet, you know, a lot of us that are in, you know, a leadership space, or, you know, peace of mind, or, you know, transformation, anything like that, we come at it with energy of what's possible. What can I create? What is available to me? And that's the space I was in. And just the last few days is when, like, kind of like a wave of heaviness hit me. I'm like, we're still doing this. And just, you know, not the news, but I received certain news, like certain things were shifting, changing. And, you know, like I shared with you, for example, like my roof is locked now. They just locked it on Sunday. And that sounds like such a small piece, but I didn't.
Yeah, but that was like an oasis of fresh air and.
Yeah, where I could still follow the rules and not go out anywhere. And I didn't realize how important that was to me. So as we're in this space of being in our homes, being with our friends, being with our families, you know, whatever your home situation is, that out the gate, it was like, let's connect with like all this time, right? We have all this time. We have all this extra time. We can't go anywhere. And what I'm also hearing out in the universe is like, I feel like my schedule is the most full it's ever been, you know, because this ambition, if you will, to create and like keep yourself above like the noise and keep your energy in high vibration. So like, let's kind of go in there. I kind of unpacked a couple of things.
Oh, it's all so good. Yes.
Like, all downloading right now of like, you know, we get to be in our energy, our leadership, and like, you know, in our possibility. And we also get to understand the flexibility of like, this is changing every day, every moment. And what was working for me on Saturday may not work for me today on Wednesday. And that's okay.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm looking at some notes here that I wrote. Every time I get little like inspiration downloads. And, you know, one of the things I wrote is, you know, it's a period where things change and the way we think about things change, and that we get to think and live and create differently. And it's like all the time. So I love what you said. There's a couple things to unpack there. So it's this idea of the continuous shifts that are required. It's calling forth a lot of resourcefulness. It's calling forth a lot of patience, a lot of trust. And I love what you said about those of us who are wired for leadership, because the response was this, and earlier we were talking and I said, it's like, it was like an adrenaline hit. It was like something happens and your like inner sort of warrior goes into like, okay, well, what can I do about this? It's because
inner warrior, that is great. I love
it. Quotable.
Yeah.
Your inner warrior, my inner warrior was like, I am needed. It was like the bat signal was like, for all like people in the leadership space, for healers, for spiritual, for all of us who are like wired for transformation.
Yeah.
And so it was immediately like, okay, well, how do I get to show up? And while that wasn't true for everybody, because I also spoke with other people who are in this space that were like, you know what, I just felt like I got to really pause and see where to plug myself in. My experience was like, there was like a week where I was just very kind of dialed in, like when it first happened, into understanding how I got to show up for my audience. And then when I did, originally I was like, okay, it's a time for visibility. And then I was like, it's a time to be flexible. Definitely a time to create rather than consume. But the creation doesn't necessarily have to be in the space of doing all the things, but in creating a new possibility, creating from a space of like, you know, if you, as women and men, we all have the divine feminine in us. If you tap into your creatrix energy, which is like what's possible here, but it doesn't have to go into like overdrive of, okay, what does that look like? Is it an email? Is it a Facebook Live? Is it conversations? Yeah. Is it all the Zoom calls with all the leaders I know so that we could do something? Like everybody was like, let's do it. And you saw that. You saw it in our community. We saw like lots of like momentum being like sprung into action. And then what's happening now, which I've been talking into on my own videos and things, is the past week, there's like a shift into, okay, so this is it. It's like that newness, the adrenaline, that sort of like first burst is kind of like being sort of settled. And what comes to mind as I speak about this is that as leaders, we get to be in a space of sustainability. Like, how do you not spike? Because when we're like ambitious and driven and got all the ideas and we're like, it's like idea one day and then the next day you're like crash, and then or in one day you're like, oh my God, and then 2 hours later you're like, oh my God, what am I, you know? It's like we have these like ups and downs all the time, and I think that's beyond the circumstances we're in now, which are extra special. I think that's how a lot of us are wired. And so something else that I really speak into is equilibrium, is having that sort of like, how do you preserve your energy? How do you preserve your contribution?
Yeah.
So that you're like, you're just, it's like a wave of, okay. And that takes a lot of that self-reflection, self-empowerment, and to really be very grounded and focused on, okay, how am I responding in every moment to what's happening?
Yeah, I definitely want it. That equilibrium piece is so useful for all of us, for now, later, before, whatever time. And I want to go back to that piece that you shared, and you shared it yesterday. MA and I are in a mastermind, and we got together last night. And you shared this last night, and the distinction between creation and consumption right now, or just in general. And I feel like that piece leads into the equilibrium, which is something I definitely want to open up and share, because that piece of the equilibrium opens the space for sustainability and energy not leaking out, and, you know, keeping, you know, on point with your vision and the intention that you set. So let's go into that. So consumption versus creation. Let's talk more about that. What comes up for you first?
So what comes first is that our soul is always leaning into creation, like what our soul is calling forth. I think just kind of its default mode is to be the source of creation, the source of ideas, the source of you know, like birthing new things in your life. And there's a powerful, and here we can bring in the distinction of doing versus being, because again, when we go into that doing energy, then it's like, oh, create means that I've got to, you know, be really use my time wisely to like do something. But creation also means intentionally using that time to open up space in your being. So you're creating your reality as you go. You're creating your life. So it's like, then when you think about the opposite, which is consumption, is that you are living your life based on a default set of paradigms or principles, based on information that you're receiving externally. You're consuming and you're reacting rather than creating from what is it that you really want? Like, what is it that matters to you right now? And I also bring it up because there's, in this time, I've noticed a crazy like barrage, like an influx of everybody sharing different things and messages. And for those of you out there, I'm sure many of you are follow a variety of coaches, leaders, people in whatever space on your in your inbox, in your social media. you've seen, it's like people's true colors sort of come out in these like crunch times. And one of the things I've noticed is that when something comes from a space of kind of scarcity or like, oh, I got to do so, you sort of feel it. Like people have stepped into, you got to use your time wisely, and you know, all this stuff. And it it shows up differently for everybody. So the wisest thing we can do is to actually use this time to look within and to understand what makes you you, like what matters to you. And because there's such a stark contrast right now between all the you know, the things we were doing before that are no longer available to us, there's even more space to pause and more space to look within. And that's a very intimate kind of conversation.
Oh,
creation is very intimate, you know, creation is very vulnerable, because when you're consuming and sort of imagine you're consuming and regurgitating what you hear, then it's kind of safe. But when you're actually in that space of your creatrix energy, it's like, okay, this is really me. This is very intimate and vulnerable. What am I willing to, what's the price I'm willing to pay for actually saying this, or for making this choice in this moment? And that's really available to us right now.
Yeah. And I love the creatrix. Is this another hashtag?
Yeah. So cosmic creatrix.
Yeah. I'm like,
thing.
Oh. Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say, you know, the difference between consumption and creation is, am I participating or am I not? Am I being in my power and participating in life, or am I just sitting back, letting life happen to me?
That's a beautiful way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. And just think about it, because, you know, I was talking, you know, we MA and I are in a world of entrepreneurs. So, you know, a lot of the talk we talk about might sound a little entrepreneur-y, but just know we're all entrepreneurs right now. Everyone right now is an entrepreneur, because my friend was like, I'm having a board meeting with myself on Monday. And I was like, yeah. You know, I get to like do like a state of a union and like get this shop in order. And he was like, I'm having a board meeting with myself. And I was like, that is the most fantastic thing I've ever heard.
I love that.
And the reason I call that I bring that piece forward, that the entrepreneur piece, is that, you know, I was talking to a different friend last week, and she had this program that she wanted to launch on the 1st, which was last Wednesday. And it just wasn't lining up the way she wanted it to or had intended it to. And I reminded her that, you know, you are your own boss. And the only deadline, that April 1st deadline, you're the only one who knows that. The sphere of people that you want to serve or will be served by you do not know that there's an April 1st deadline. You're making that up. And you have the same power, the creation power, because it seems like the consumer, like, I made this up and now I just got to see what happens. No, you're the creator. So create a different date that might work. Don't constrict yourself to something that, you know, is just not going to be a win for you, or, you know, whoever is involved in whatever it is you're up to. So when I also think about the consumption versus creation, I think about the people that are right now actively creating what's next for themselves. Whether things are good, great, or okay, I think of creation as like they're already onto what now and what's next. And, you know, the people that might still be in the fear, are, you know, still in the worry, the stress, the anxiety, might be in that consumption, like, I'm waiting for someone to make me.
It's another way to see it is that, you know, are you being a victim to it, or are you in your power? And when you're speaking of people who are like in the what's next, it could simply be an energetic mindset space. Like, even if you're not actually doing anything for that next, but you have this knowing that this is an opportunity for you to lean into what's next, and have that openness, and have that, you know, exploration of, okay, well, what do I get to create now, and not be in resistance to what's happening? Because it's the other thing is like, when you're in that space of fear and that space of kind of like holding on and waiting for the thing to pass, you're basically resisting the what is.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't found, from in my own personal experience, that I think the most powerful transformation you can have in your self mastery is to be in acceptance and not resistance of what is. And that immediately just like shifts your entire way of how you show up for something, because then that brings in that openness of, okay, I don't know. And that's scary, for a lot of us, that unknown, our ego is trying to control things every which way it can. And it's like, oh my gosh. So, imagine the freedom that comes from that exploration and that even opening of, oh wow, in a world where nothing is certain right now, then everything is possible. So what could that look like for me, for my family, for the people I love?
Yeah.
And because of the and there's a really beautiful, powerful sort of astrological story happening right now where Pluto and Jupiter are playing together. I'm not going to go super deep into this. It's totally like Lisa Kostova's jam. But I've been doing a lot of research into this because it's so applicable. It's like Pluto is the planet of the unconscious, of everything that we're holding underneath the surface. And it's doing conjunction with Jupiter, which is the biggest planet. And it's like it amplifies anything. So right now, a lot of what I've also been, reading into and understanding from a deeper sort of perspective is that it's an opportunity for us individually to dig into that unconscious, all the stuff that we've been putting to the back of our mind, not addressing, not looking at, that is really vital. And so just to have that openness again, that creator energy to be open to what's coming, and not be in fear. I always speak of choice. Like, you have a choice. Doesn't mean it's not scary. Doesn't mean you're going around like, oh my God, this is amazing. And there's a lot of like serious shabib happening right now, like no joke. And you still have a choice where if you go down the line of like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And what's the worst thing that could happen? You still have a choice for how you show up for that. And it's going to change your life when you look at it from a different perspective, like completely.
So let's take that and thread the needle through equilibrium, because that is one of the tools. And some people may know it as balance. So let's walk through the consumption versus creator. So let's take that creator energy and now let's move it through equilibrium, because a lot of us came out the gates blazing 2 weeks ago. And the consensus that I'm hearing in my life and a lot of my clients is we're just tired right now. Like, I'm just exhausted. And, and it's because of a lot of reasons. But my experience, what I'm experiencing is that I've held so much space for people, and my creator has been on fire, i.e., I was doing this show every day, doing it now twice a week, working with new clients are just coming in. So many people are motivated, they're inspired, they want to move through this with clarity, confidence, and empowerment. So, granted, the book of business I already had was great, but now it's like new people are showing up. And, we all have families and friends, and holding those kind of conversations, like talking about like things that may or may not be happening this month or next month. So just there's a lot of swirl going on with like energy. So, I think in the old paradigm, we always thought of energy as like, okay, I feel awake and I feel good and I have enough energy to go work out. We always thought of it as like a physical energy. And energy, it's holistic. It's the mental energy, the physical energy, sure, and then the spiritual, and and we can go deeper into that. But the equilibrium piece is what really guides you through, and not saying to like pump your brakes, right? For those of us who are in super creator mode, and for those of us who have been in consumer mode, it doesn't mean like now start a business or now go run 10 miles or whatever. So let's kind of like, you know, thread that needle of equilibrium and kind of bring out some workability for it.
Yeah. So equilibrium, harmony, alignment, balance, like, you know, lots of different flavors of basically the same. When I think about equilibrium, I always use like this energy of sort of like a wave pattern, because we can either be like sort of spiking up and then just you spike and then the drop is that much more, potentially that much more intense. Or you're kind of in a low and then it takes a lot more to get you like up into the momentum space. So it's really a combination of, you know, and I always talk, you know, my sort of framework for how I coach is mindset, magic, and momentum. So it's like, how do we maintain that wave of I am showing up? And I think a lot of it has to do with how are you resourcing your own energy, being grounded, you know, being mindful of your own energetic body. I love that you brought it up because yes, in the old paradigm, energy is like, am I energetic or am I not, or am I sleepy or am I awake? And it's so much more than that. I mean, we're all energy. It's like, you know, science and spiritual thing. And so how do you resource yourself? How do you create space for your body to come back into equilibrium with itself, to feel grounded, you know, to be embodied so that you're not always in a headspace. You know, a good question to ask yourself is, you know, how can I shift to creating from my heart? And you don't have to be super spiritual to have that conversation with yourself. You can just kind of tap in and go, okay, what would it look like? Let me be just curious here. What would it look like for me to make my next decision from a heart-centered space? And the call might be to, okay, now instead of doing that other thing that you thought you had to do, you're going to go take a nap, or you're going to go, you know, create space to be in meditation, prayer, silence, whatever your flavor is that supports you, bringing in more of that and testing things out so that you can find the way to resource your own, you know, your own system. And again, that comes from creating your own sense of, you know, like homeostasis, I guess, where it's like being mindful of your person. And it doesn't mean we're not collaborating with others, and it doesn't mean we're not being in massive contribution, but all of that amps up so much more when you have more of a wellspring to give from.
Yeah.
And so that's part of that equilibrium piece, is being mindful of, well, what does it look like for me to nurture and cultivate my own sense of energy? You know, practical tools for that is, you know, starting a meditation practice. Like there's resources like Insight Timer, which is a free app that's amazing and has tons of guided meditations. You know, creating a sort of space in your home where you can like just create like a little bubble of, okay, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to journal. I'm going to light a candle. I'm going to have some tea. And it doesn't take a whole lot for you to start kind of feeling like, okay, this is, you know, and again, we go back to that intimacy. I think it requires a lot of intimacy to be in equilibrium with ourselves, because it's like you're preserving your most sacred relationship which is with you and with your higher self. We can also go into the route of how do you set proper boundaries so that you're not feeling sucked in different directions. Again, it doesn't mean you're not giving, you're not being in service, but there's being in service and then there's getting depleted.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, so I'd say when we think about the practical ways to bring in that equilibrium is, you know, being mindful of our energetic body. So how do we create that space? One of my favorite, very quick things to do is every evening in the shower, I take very mindful showers. They could be 5 minutes, but I'll light a candle. I will, you know, just be in that space of like, again, it's my quick shower, but I create a little space of like self-nurturing. And every evening in the shower, I learned this a few years ago and I still do it every night. I let like, you know, water run through me, especially in the back of my neck. And I basically say, you know, all the energy that I expended throughout the day to day, everything that I sent out, I now call back in. And I literally go through like every email, every text message.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything, every conversation, every question I answered, any like financial exchange, anything, I now bring back the energy that's mine, and I release whatever energy isn't mine. And that takes, you know, and once your body gets used to it, then you just do it, and it's like, oh, and it's an instant kind of like, oh, if you try it tonight in the shower, I bet you'll feel something shift.
Yeah, and for those watching, you know, I know some people have a thing when it comes to meditation, like it's not for me, and I don't know, I'm not good at it. What MA is explaining right now is a form of meditation. It's just giving yourself a moment where you're not connected to what is happening or what you're doing, and you're just connecting with yourself.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be, let's light the candles and break out the Buddha and sit Indian style and chant.
Yeah.
That, I live very high up in my building, and I just saw a bag fly at me. So what you just said, my mind was going in a different direction. I thought you were going to say the water was a way to release the things that no longer serve you or don't serve you in the moment, and, you know, things that just weren't working for the day. And I just love where your mind and your heart go, that no, that's a calling in of my power, of, you know, all the energy that I used in the day. And that is just so beautiful. What a shift in, you know, the two different ways, or it could be both. You could do both, but I just love where you went with that. So thank you.
Yeah. And in times like this, like, you know, get yourself, like, go on a mission today to create your little oasis in the shower. If you have an essential oil at home, great. If not, doesn't matter. You know, get one from somewhere. Get a candle. You know, you have a candle at home somewhere. Yeah. And just create that space where you turn off the light, you light a couple candles, I'm not suggesting, like, yes, baths are beautiful, but I'm talking about your regular everyday shower. How can you carve out, because listen, I'm not waking up. I wake up at like 7 in the morning, sometimes earlier, with my son, who wakes me up. So I do not meditate in the morning. I don't have, like, right now, I don't have like a steady meditation practice where I'm like, okay, now I'm going to sit down. I create moments during the day when I can, like, go within and just sort of like, okay, here we go. And that's why the shower for me is really beautiful, because it's just me. It's easy to create that sensory experience. The shower is very sensory, especially if you bring in a scent, so that you have the touch. If you want to just bring your phone in and look up some like meditation music, or YouTube has a ton of incredible like audio meditation type tracks that last for a long time. Just put your phone in there and just bring yourself in a space of a quick sort of like, I promise you that if you create that as a practice over the next week, try it for 1 week.
Yeah.
You will see incredible results right away from something very simple that will bring you back into a state of equilibrium. And then from there, you can make better and more empowered decisions when it comes to your boundaries, when it comes to, you know, the choices that you're making of how you show up in your existing business, or now if you're shifting completely into doing something new because you were laid off, or whatever the situation is. But it starts from that space of like, okay, well, how do I take care of me? And not just because, oh, it's cute to do self-care. I'm not talking about do a mask. And I mean, yeah, all that stuff is great. It's like a basic, like brushing your teeth for your soul, like, you know, so that you can get out the gunk and call back in your like sparkliness of who you are, which is so powerful for women and for men. Please, guys, do it too.
Yeah. And it's so simple. And you can, whenever you take your shower, because, you know, if you take your shower in the morning.
Totally.
And, you know, we got time for 2 showers, maybe. Who knows?
Yes.
I love how simple that is, and just a different form, and, you know, a form of self-connection. And, you know, there's been a piece that's really been coming up in these conversations and interviews that I've been having. And I brought this forward this morning when we chatted, and it's just really having the grace and the the gentleness with ourselves right now,
Mm-hmm.
that if we are feeling exhausted or just in a space of like, okay, this is it. I'm at my max. And if it happens to be 2:30, it's 2:30. You're at your max. You tap out for the day. Give yourself grace. Be gentle with yourself. And I know for those of you listening, if you're deeply connected to your to-do list and somehow it looks like more is going on than coming off or being checked off, that's okay too. And those moments, as MA was sharing in the shower, are the moments where you can also connect with those things as well. So as you're connecting with yourself, maybe you take another minute or two to connect with what really matters that's on that list right now. What matters the most? Because I know, just as a coach and as a human being, when I see a lot of things on a list, it's like, whoa, and just like with my clients, whether it's a corporate client or a person, that when there's a lot on the list, we think, oh my, it's easy to go into that mindset of overwhelm. And I love how you brought forward that, everything is a choice, because, I think we might have taught, I can't remember who I spoke about with on the series, but overwhelm is a choice.
Yeah.
So you can see that list as something overwhelming, or you can approach that list with a different mindset of, okay, what matters the most on this list? And another possibility is like, what are the things I can quickly complete? Like quick, that may not be like super important, but they make the list look longer. The things that are on the list that just like, it's like silly things that like, but because there's 3 or 4 or 10 silly things on the list is like, So, and then there's so many other ways to look at whatever we're up to, because I know a lot of the conversations people are having right now is everyone's talking about how much time we do have, yet I feel like I'm not getting anything done.
Yeah.
So, and I saw, and just to laugh about it, because we get to laugh, I saw a picture on Facebook or Twitter or whatever of a man who parted his dog's hair down the corner and like combed it. And he was like, I spent all day parting my dog's hair down the center, and I haven't read a single page in this book. And I lost it, because I'm like, samesies. Like, I don't have a dog, but I'm like, I'm playing like video games on my phone, because they're brain games, like trivia and like things like that. And I'm loving it, because I barely turn my TV on, because these games are so thrilling. And, it's just, I like to do mental exercises or whatever, but like, it's this thing of like the grace and the gentleness right now is like, and just think of those words, gentle and grace. Imagine what it would be like if you approached things in your life with grace and being gentle, rather than with like overwhelm, stress, like guilt. Like I feel guilty, I'm not doing all this, or I feel guilty that I have all this. So I mean, it's just a really beautiful, and it doesn't cost a thing to be graceful, gentle to yourself and to others.
Yeah. I have a whole conversation around overwhelm. I actually don't believe in overwhelm is a choice, and I don't believe in I wrote a post about this, or I think Jules and I did a podcast episode on how I believe the word overwhelm should be eradicated from everybody's vocabulary. And choose other things, like you can be oversaturated, or you can have, a lot going on. But this energy of this idea of you being overwhelmed is a complete choice, because then it's almost like you can't handle it. And it's all an illusion of, what are you, it's like, the other thing that comes to mind as you're saying this is, it's very easy for us to make things hard. It's easy for us to make things hard. It's hard to make things easy. And that's a statement that triggers the crap out of people that are like, but what do you mean easy? Because easy has connotations of lazy, of doesn't matter, not valuable, not worth it, because
I'm supposed to have it figured out.
Right. I'm supposed to ... shoulda, woulda, coulda. So we then are in judgment around what do you mean make it easy or easeful? I'm one of them. I mean, this is a life stretch for me, is to dissolve this idea that my worth is tied to things that are difficult, to things that are executed at a certain level. And because that's how I was wired, to like equal sort of my worth with that, what you produce, what you create from that standpoint. And then the flip side of it is, okay, well, how can I create this sense of ease from a different space? It's like this challenge for all of us to really live into that and model that. And it's a challenge and a stretch, because it's not like, oh, okay, let me just be graceful and compassionate and gentle. Okay, done, click. No, but imagine if you were like, okay, well, I get that I'm going to be a beginner at this, because this is not new. This is new. This is a new territory, and I'm willing to go there. So let's be a beginner even at being like that.
I love that.
Gentle.
I call that experiment. I'm just going to experiment
Yes.
with being graceful in 10 minutes.
Exactly. Because then what happens is our ambitious, driven part of the brain goes, okay, then I got to get this graceful thing like perfect. I got to be perfectly gentle and perfectly whatever. And then it's like we're still caught in the same story.
Or they're caught in the story. What does graceful mean?
What it has to look like, what you have to say about it, or like, or you have to prove somehow now that you're graceful. It becomes like a test.
And just know that I just want to share that inner dialogue of like you're needing to land like 100% perfect with graceful, or I don't know what graceful means. That is just the part of you, your ego, that is just resisting the easiness and the seamlessness of what is available to you. And it's okay. It's not wrong that it's resisting it.
Completely.
It's just protecting you and keeping you safe. But just know there is power in you that has more available to, and today we're just talking about grace and gentleness in this moment, but there's so much more available to you when you have a conversation there and not just listen to, it's too hard, or I don't understand, I don't know, or that's not for me. That's you listening and being a consumer of your ego rather than being the creator, accessing your power and like talking back to it, not back talk, but just saying, okay, I hear you, and I'm going to experiment with being graceful. I'm going to experiment with pressing the easy button for the next 10 minutes. I'm just going to see what it feels like and see what happens when I make things easy.
Yeah. And in big picture, like the universe is effortless. Like the universe doesn't effort when it grows a flower, or when, anything that happens when, animals are born, and it's like, okay, it just, so we're wired to actually have things come way easier and more organically to us than what we make it. And the more you tap into your own sense of inner equilibrium, the more you can access that space of it's okay, and understand that we also get to be, again, visionary leaders that are shifting the paradigm. The paradigm says hard. The paradigm says like the default living is sort of like you're in these rails, in these parameters, you go down this road, that's what everybody does. If you're being called right now to like think about things differently, even if it's just like the tiniest inkling of like, oh, wait a minute, then understand that you're someone who's been called to shift the paradigm of how we do things as human beings, and what's possible on the other side if we all work towards more of a sense of trust. Like, I think pressing that easy button is a huge testament to how much we trust ourselves. Because when we don't trust ourselves, then it's like, oh, I've got to, just work extra hard, go the double, triple extra mile, because it's like you don't trust your capability to make it happen in a different way. You know what I mean?
Or we do nothing because
or we're paralyzed.
That's too hard.
Right.
And another thing that supports me and that I share a lot is no one ever said anything is easy. But the truth is that nothing is hard either. Nothing is hard. but you better believe things are challenging. And our human design, we are designed for challenges. We are not designed for hard. The minute our brain and our being senses or attaches or thinks consciously or subconsciously about hard, we're like, not doing it, or we don't enjoy it. We might be doing it, but we don't enjoy it. It's like a struggle. Think about the same scenario, the same thing, and as a challenge, just, you know, I'm a total geek over here. I love puzzles. I love trivia. I love solving things. Thriller is like my top. When I do watch Netflix, it's my top pick. I like to, like, who did it? Like, that's what we're here for. And here's the other side of that, is the people who say they're bored. I'm like, that's a choice as well.
Yes.
Because this design we're in, this humanness experience we're in right now, we are here for challenges. We're sitting here on Zoom right now, Facebook living, and like, because people went out and challenged themselves and wanted to solve things and innovate. We are all where we are right now because of not because things were hard. But yes, we are. I'm not saying things were not challenging and will continue to be challenging. But the minute our brain latches onto hard, it's like impossible, guilt, procrastination, overwhelm, stress, all these things that just really, why would you choose that? What's the choice? If you had grace, ease as a choice, or stress and guilt, I know which one you're going to pick. And again, I want to reflect, it's not an easy choice. I love what you shared. Earlier.
No. And to bring that like full circle is that when you look at it like a challenge, then it calls forth your creativity. It calls forth your resourcefulness. A challenge calls you forth into, okay, what's another way to look at this? What's another way to solve this challenge I find myself in? Which then you're in your power. You're not just sitting there waiting for someone else to figure it out for you, which is like, I think a lot of people are in that space. Like, I'm just kind of want to wait for somebody to figure it out. And while you don't have control over how things fall in the external world, you can always impact the world, but you don't have control over the things that are happening. You have absolute control over how you choose to show up in your space. And how you show up today is an indication of what you will cultivate tomorrow in that, you know, big picture tomorrow. So I love that that bringing it full circle into seeing it as a challenge that calls forth your creativity. And it's not from a place of fear, but rather from a space of, okay, well, who can I be in this moment to figure this out? And not just that you have to do it on your own, that you can call forth other people around you to support you in it as well. But that's really, really powerful. I love that reframe.
Woo! Well, we just went on a journey of the distinctions between consumption and creation. You know, and what just came up for me in that last piece that you shared is, you know, when we're in that consumption phase, it's about what just downloaded for me is consciousness. Is that when we're unconscious or not in our highest consciousness, we might be in that consumer mode, and that's okay. You know,
no judgment.
It's just what happens. But when you are in that ability or in that space to shift yourself, to have conversations with yourself and not just be the listener, you listen and then you shift and you get, and that's such a simple way to shift. Have a conversation, talk back to it. Not, you know, not battle it, but just speak to it.
It's like, interesting.
And like, it's just a form of your consciousness. Consumption, consumerism is passive. You're just not activated. And that's okay. We don't need to be activated all the time. But if you're in those moments of exhaustion or stress or overwhelm, or, you know, in an hour from now, some different news hit, not the media news, but just like some news hits, that as your internal ego is talking to you, you now have a tool to say, okay, thank you. I hear you. And this is what I'm going to choose in the moment instead. Thank you for wanting to protect me. And I'm going to choose to be passionate, compassionate, powerful, responsible, resourceful, whatever lands in that bucket for you and feels good in the moment. So Maria Aleandra, any final notes as we come to a completion? Anything else you want to share with the audience before we tell them about our fun announcements?
Gosh, no, I mean, this was just beautiful. It's, you know what I want to, I guess, to leave you with, this is I mean, it's such an unprecedented time to cultivate what is really most true to you. It's a powerful time to go like, almost like, what do I have to lose? You know, it's like, ask yourself that question when you're like caught in a choice moment of, you know, really like all the constructs of what life kind of used to be are no longer the same. And so choosing to explore and be in that space of just, you know, how is this going to land? And if you are consuming, then have it be things that are nurturing to your soul, that are providing you with something of like something that lights you up and that really brings you into a space of a higher vibration. Like you can begin to sort of check in very practically with yourself when you're watching or consuming something that's kind of like bringing you sort of like, just like shift that in the moment and then choose to engage in something that lifts you up. So yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. You know, this series started with Maria Aleandra. She was my first guest. And, you know, it was such an inspiration that I was like, I get to have her back on. And we definitely fulfilled that. And we get to have you back on again and again. I mean, you and I could talk forever, which leads us to our fun announcement, something that was, I guess, birthed and like formulated, constructed in that first episode, in the first moment. Do you remember? It was literally in the first moment. You know,
I have to go back and watch it. I remember the feeling of it, but I don't remember what we said.
Well, because, you know, I like to bring the fun. Like, I'm not all like dropping them and like.
Oh,
yes. And I was just like, happy Monday. And I was like, I say Monday because, you know, I've been having conversations with people and we're like, what day is it right now? Like, where are we? What's happening?
Yeah.
And, you know, as we just had a laugh about that, you were like, yes, whatever day.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that just stuck out. I was like, yes, whatever day. Someone gets to hashtag that, roll with it, make it a t-shirt. I'll buy it from you and let them know what we decided.
Yeah. Yeah. So because Tiffany and I have we have a personality where we can totally jam together. And we were like, all right, whatever day. Plus we're like total like idea women. So we're like, we're going to create a show. Yeah. This gets to be a show. Cause of course we go from like
ideas over here.
We go from like a joke to a show. Like, watch out. We go from an idea to a merchandise line, a show. We're going to have Jimmy Fallon on as a guest. Oprah's coming on next week. You know, it's just, the thing has already grown in 2 weeks. Yeah. No, but all kidding aside, we're launching it's it's more of a talk show, night show, variety show, late night, not so late night situation called Whatever Day.
Whatever Day. So I just love that.
I hope that's not like a gang sign.
Yes, like we'll do it. Like what we could do it like angel wings, whatever day. Yeah. And I feel like that's an emoji, isn't it?
I know.
Which are
I know. I just hope it's not a gang sign.
Well, okay, true. Well, we're giving new context. Anything can be interpreted any single way. And
that's
like
true.
I'll come have a talk with y'all. But see, this is whatever day right here.
This is whatever day.
Now you're experiencing whatever day. So she and I, Emma and I, can just go off on these tangents where we're, you know, we can talk about something very like, you know, poignant,
deep and profound,
and then turn it into light, fun, Holy smokes. And what I love about that is it makes us laugh, and our intention and purpose and vision for whatever day is to create joy and laughter, fun, and just like shenanigans of like things that are going on right now in whatever this paradigm is right now. So MA, do you want to give them a kind of a little sample of the things that we're thinking about?
Yeah. So we did some brainstorming and we have a few really nice segments. You have to come and check them out. Our first show is airing next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And we're going to go
Wednesday the 15th, which
Wednesday
was formerly tax day.
Would have been tax day, is now whatever day. Tax day is now whatever day, because nobody knows what's up. So we're going to have a bunch of different segments that we've created that are interactive. They're funny. We're going to sprinkle in a lot of our juicy sort of ideas and things that crack us up. So it's going to be quirky, and it's going to be, I think, a really, really good time. So whether you're catching it live, which would be amazing, because then there's, you can be in the moment, or you're watching the replay, hopefully it'll become a little oasis for you to laugh and dial up your joy and bring in, like, raise your vibe of how you're feeling on a particular day. So I think it's beautiful that we're also showcasing that part of us, because I love that, visionary people have multiple aspects of who they are. And a lot of times we may not play in that space. I'll speak for myself. I'm really funny and really quirky and really like, wow. And up until now, I've had this facade of like, I've got to be more serious, because otherwise people won't take me seriously. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Right.
I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate.
So this for us is a way to showcase another aspect of us that's very true to who we are. And we get to, and it's not like an either or. We get to balance that with have a really profound conversation that morning, and then in the evening switch into like whatever day, which
yes, this will be our logo.
You need to send me a picture of you like that so I can make a logo.
I totally will. And I wanted to just share that whatever day is all about you as well, like the content and things we're going to be talking about and sharing, and whether it's live, like having you hop on, or having you send us stuff, and not physical stuff, but like sending us, there's going to be certain segments where you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I have something I want to send them. Yeah. Or you may get a phone call from us like during the show live, and we may whatever you. I don't know.
You may get whatever date.
Yeah, or maybe we hit you up on Facebook Live, or something like that. So we're gonna have lots of fun. It involves you. This is not us like this interview series. However, it will look like this for the sake of where we are right now in life. We're going to be airing on Facebook Live. The first show is going to be this upcoming Wednesday, April 15th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And just come with your giggles and ready to smile and just laugh and have a good time. So anything else? How would you like to say goodbye?
Oh, well, the one last thing to describe whatever day that you were talking about earlier, it's as if Hoda and Kathy Lee, when Kathy Lee was there, Hoda and Kathy Lee, Jimmy Fallon and Oprah got together and had a show baby.
Yeah, they get a baby show.
They produce. They would birth through the birth canal, would come out whatever day.
Yeah. So yes. I love that. Thank you. So MA, let everyone watching know where they could find you and get more magic momentum.
Yes. So definitely come over, check me out on Instagram at Maria Aleandra. We'll put the thing in the comments. And my hubby and I have a podcast called The Couple Shift. We've been talking a lot about a lot of this type of conversation too, and it's pretty funny. So I think everybody will enjoy that. So from Instagram, you can find all my goodies and things and what I do in the world. And then the podcast is called The Couple Shift, wherever you find podcasts.
Yeah, and we'll have all that in the comments on Facebook. And MA and I will come in today and answer any questions. I see some things popping up in the chat over here. So Thank you to everyone who watched us live and everyone who's watching later right now. Power, Possibilities, Peace of Mind comes back on Tuesday. And my guest is Curtis Jackson, who is an outdoors man. He is an entrepreneur. He's going to be talking about like living off the, this is going to get real interesting, like living off the land and just really talking about the power of nature and the environment. And I like this guy, I love him so much. He's such a stand, and it's so incredible to watch a man who also has very deep connection with his feminine. And, you know, Dana and I talked about that on Tuesday, that it's not about anything else except all of us are masculine and feminine, and just accessing it really opens up more of our power. So we're going to be talking to him on Tuesday. And then on Thursday, we're going to be talking about Untamed, the Glennon Doyle book. I have a couple of guests coming on that we're going to, I know.
Who do you have on?
Tammy. And then I'm just waiting to hear back from a couple of other people. But honestly, you know, how you started off today, I was like, oh, you are in your Glennon right now. Like how you started in the beginning was very Glennon-esque. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a compliment. Yes, I'm reading Untamed, so I will be watching and commenting.
Yeah. And anybody, it's not just for men. That is, excuse me, it's not just for women. I really want to like really express that, because she reads it through the lens of her experience being a woman. She speaks a lot saying woman, her, she, but my invitation is read it, no matter anyone read it. And I'm actually interpreting it for the workplace. So I'm taking all her lessons and I'm interpreting it and putting it together for the workplace. Imagine if all of us showed up into the workplace fully ourselves, fully expressed. Do you imagine how much creativity, productivity, engagement, like innovation that would happen? And the inclusion that we would feel, it's just like, I'm so inspired. Like that's one of my projects that I'm doing as well. So I love each and every one of you watching. Maria Aleandra, I love you, love you, love you. You can see both of us again on Sunday. We are on a weekly show every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can hop back on. It doesn't air live from my Facebook, but I'll create a watch party where you can watch it there. And I love you guys. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.
Love you guys. Love you, girl. Bye.